We're going to do a little bit more about learning about eschatology, the study of time, the end times, time of the end, and etc. And what that actually meant in the Bible. See, contrary to popular belief, people want you to believe that the end times is today or in our near future and etc. Not saying or understanding or explaining that the end times in the Bible was the time in which Israel would stop being a covenantal people under the old covenant, and a new people would become God's people under a new covenant, including Israel, but as well as the nations. You can see plenty of ends. You see the ends of the old world with the flood came and left. A new civilization came that's supposed to worship God in the same manner. That's what's going on in the Bible. Old covenant Israel was part of that old world that came after the flood, and a new world, a new heavens and earth, a new creation was going to result after that destruction of Israel, and a new people of God was going to come. But let's show you how the Bible shows when these end days, last days was going to come about. Okay, we can go into Jacob. Right before Jacob dies, the last days, the end of time of Jacob's life, him being the patriarch that was supposed to bring in a covenant or had a covenant established to or attached to him. Let's look at his end days and see what he says. Genesis 49:1. Now Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather together, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days." So Jacob is explaining to Israel, or the children of Israel, his children, what was going to befall them in the last days. And this is one of the things that was going to befall them. You go to verse number 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from his loins, until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the expectation of the nations, binding his coats to a vine and his donkey's coat to its branch, and he will wash his garments in wines and his clothes in the blood of grapes. So we clearly see that Shiloh, aka the Messiah, was supposed to come in the last days, as Jacob clearly stated. Let me tell you what shall befall you in the last days. So the last biblical days is the time period that Christ came. This is something else that they was waiting on to happen in this quote-unquote last days, when the new covenant was going to come. Deuteronomy 18, verse number 17. Then the Lord said to me, what they have spoken is good. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brethren, and I will put my word in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all I command him. So in the last days, a prophet was going to come, and he was going to speak all that the Lord commanded him to speak to the people. So let's see if the Messiah accomplished this as this prophet was supposed to do in the last days. You got John 12, 48 and 49. He who rejects me and does not receive my words has that which judges him. The word that I have spoken will judge him in the last day. For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me gave me a command what I should say and what I should speak. So now Christ said his words was going to judge them on the last day, not the last days, because Christ lived in the last days, but he's explaining in the last day of the last days period he lived in, his words was going to be what judged them. And he actually stated here, once again, I speak not of my own authority, but the Father who sent me gave me a command what I should say and what I should speak. Same thing they said in Deuteronomy. I will put my words in his mouth and command him and speak what I should command, and etc. So we see Christ said he is that prophet. He's fulfilling that last day prophecy. But what I'm saying is not new. Everyone knew this in the ancient world. In fact, let me show you some more proof. You go to Hebrews chapter 1. God, verse 1. God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in time past to the fathers by the prophets, time past, has in these last days spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, through whom also he made the world. So the author of Hebrews said the Messiah came in the last days and spoke to them all things, right? And all things was appointed unto him. So in time past, that's the past of the author of the Hebrews and the audience, the prophets spoke to them. But in the last days, which was the present day that the author of Hebrews wrote in the audience he wrote to, that was the last days in which Christ came and spoke to them. But there's more. Galatians chapter 4, verse 4. But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. Plural. But you see right there that Paul is declaring that Christ came at the fullness of time. There's no more time past the fullness of time. The fullness of time was the last days. Christ came in the fullness of time to redeem those under the law, to show you it's more covenantal things going on right there. He wanted to redeem them under the law so they could become sons, adopted sons, aka new covenant citizens when they dwell with God as family. He is our God, we are his people. Sons, no more servants, no more shadows, sons. That's what Christ came to do at the end of days. Shiloh came, and the expectation of the nations was on him. Not upon the law, not upon Moses, but upon him. He came to do something new at the end of the old world, ushering in the new world, being the new Adam. Yes, no more following the old world, the old way of Adam, who had transgression, sin, iniquity. But now we have a new world coming, following Christ, who has righteousness, grace, peace, love, the Holy Spirit coming back, and etc. At the end of days, things had to be fulfilled to usher in the new kingdom, the new way of doing things, the new way of worship, the new way of understanding. Matthew 17:4. Then Peter answered and said to Jesus, Lord, is it good for us to be here? If you wish, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and suddenly a voice came out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. AKA making a proclamation from Deuteronomy 18:18's prophet. Christ is that prophet, and the Father made it be known. Listen to him. Thank you all for listening in. Once again, the Bible, eschatology, study of end times, and etc. The end days was 1st century. Christ came, he took out the old world, brought in the new world. Thank you all for listening in. Subscribe to the channel. All right.